Hi everybody and welcome to the Flexo Dev2Dev series. And today we have a special topic for you. Today we would like to talk about SAP Build Workzone, a wonderful service that comes with SAP Task Center and SAP Mobile Start that we would like to show to you today. But first, let me introduce my colleague and co-speaker, Jules. Jules has been working for over 4 years at Flexo and is a BTP expert that is currently leading our research management package team, the technical team that is building applications for universities and research institutions.
Of course, I'm not presenting this Dev2Dev alone. I have here my colleague Thomas. Thomas is our competence lead of the BTP team. He's also a solution architect and has experience in many domains of the BTP platform.
Thank you very much, Gilles.
Okay.
So let's dive directly into the content. So let's start with a small introduction. You could imagine in a current SAP landscape, in a modern SAP landscape, that this kind of landscape is quite dynamic. A lot of customers of SAP have different products. Those can be cloud products, but also on-premise products like S4HANA Cloud, SuccessFactors, but also like an S4 on-premise. And all those systems are moving into the Fiori design system. So Fiori design is the main design system that SAP launched and is implementing in all of their systems. And what we typically see today is that all those systems now have their own homepage. It's what we call a launchpad. So in, for example, S4, but also in SuccessFactors and other systems, you will see this kind of pages where people are able to see their applications and topics that they need to see about the relevant system. But of course, this makes that they have to bookmark all those different products. They have to make a bookmark to S4, one to SuccessFactors, one to Concur. And this might be a challenge, especially if you have users that are using different of those systems in the same day. So for that, we want to look if there is a possibility to centralize this all to one launchpad, one workzone, one single entry point where all the systems come together. So wouldn't it be nice if we have like a nice solution that is doing this for us and bringing all those systems in one central place? What do you think, Jules?
I think that's a great idea. And let's imagine, what if you could have a central access point where you can access all your business applications, have harmonized authentication across these applications from different systems, have mobile access to these applications, so you can use it on your mobile phone, and have a centralized inbox with push notifications. Well, SAP Build Workzone brings this solution for you. Of course, before we dive into it, we have some different flavors of SAP Build Workzone that I want to highlight. First of all, we have SAP Start. SAP Start is a central entry point to access all your cloud solutions from SAP. It's built up of 3 main domains. First of all, you have your products where you can access your solutions, your real products. Then you have your to-dos where you can see your tasks, your to-dos. And then you have your insights section. Here you get the insights that are relevant for you, for your work. Next to SAP Start, we have SAP Build Workzone Standard Edition. The Standard Edition unifies the access to your business applications, but also to your custom applications, to your extensions, and so on. And this for both your cloud systems, but also on-premise systems. SAP Build Workzone, the Advanced Edition, also unifies this access to your applications, also for your extensions and third party, both in the cloud and on-premise, but also adds your processes, your information, communication, and so on. During this Dev2Dev, we'll focus mainly on SAP Start and SAP Build Workzone Standard Edition. Let's say, what if you could, Thomas, and you could have a central access point for all your business applications. And for that, we have one main user, and that's Oscar Martinez. Mm-hmm. Oscar Martinez is our regional sales director, and Oscar has access to a numerous SAP system. For example, He needs to check his sales performance dashboard in S4HANA. He needs to approve requests in Concur. He needs to review his discount requests in SAP Sales Cloud. And then he also has access to SAP SuccessFactors. And of course, this brings some pain points for Oscar. Yeah? He needs 4 different bookmarks, 4 different tabs where he logs into the system too. Then he also has to log in constantly, so on. So I think it would be really nice if we could help Oscar and already centralize all his business applications that are relevant for him in one single place. For example, his S4HANA Cloud application that he uses, his customer experience applications, his SuccessFactors applications, and his Concur applications. Is that something we can do using SAP Build Workzone, Thomas?
Of course, Phil. I think we can perfectly manage this with Workzone. So I understand the use case. I think so. Let's have a look at how we could achieve this and how it will look like when we implemented it. So let's see first how to get started. And the actions that I'm mentioning here are for the system admins. So it's not for the business users, it's not for the end users, but it's important to understand what is required to get your content to a central Workzone, a central entry point. Okay. So first you need to integrate your business content with Workzone. That's a really important step that I will tell you more about in a few seconds. Then you can start designing your spaces and your pages and really get the nice look and feel that you want to have on your Launchpad. And the next step would be to assign this content to your sites that you can create in Workzone. So let's have a look first at integrating your business content into Workzone. And for this, a little bit of theory, that it's good to know that SAP helps you with this. So there are several products that are already ready to just consume into Workzone. So like S4 can just expose content to Workzone that you can then easily integrate into your Launchpad at Workzone. So that's a really easy setup. Next to that, for some products, like for example SuccessFactors, you still have to do it in a manual way. So you will have to manually create tiles that will connect to a specific page in SuccessFactors. And also for third-party products, you usually have to create the tiles manually. So it's a combination of both, and by using the right setup for the right system, you can achieve one big centralized system.
Okay.
And after that, you can starting to design your spaces and pages. And let's have a look at those two things. So I want to quickly show you this in our demo environment. So let me just jump here. So when you want to start editing or managing your Workzone environment, you do this in the site manager. It's accessible from the BTP cockpit, and this is the home page of the site manager. You can already see that you can create multiple sites. So you could say that you have different sites for different use cases instead of just one big site. So that's already an interesting thing. Now, let's have a look at the content that is coming from external systems into our Workzone environment. And the most important part here is the channel manager, where you will see your content channels and where you can basically create your content channels. And this is something that is done via destinations. So you need to create destinations in your BTP environment that will connect to your S4 system, for example, and then you will be able to consume them here and define them as a content channel. And you can see here that we have our demo tenant that is connected to our Workzone environment. So what I can see here is that I can, of course, edit or delete the content channel, which I don't want to do right now, but I can also refresh or update the content. And this will basically check if there is new exposed content. You can easily expose content in S4 in a matter of a few clicks. And this content will be exposed, and then here, by refreshing it, we will check if there is some new content available. And once you did this, the content is fetched, and you can go to the content manager. And this is the main page of Workzone where you can start designing things, designing pages, assigning apps to roles, and so on and so on. And here you will again see a button Content Explorer, where you can now retrieve the content from the channel managers that you provided. So here you will see that our S4 system is popping up again. Those are just the same channels as we saw in the previous screen. And when we go to the details screen, we will see which content is exposed. So those are the roles that are exposed from my S4 system to this workzone environment. And I can easily just select one and add it, or even remove it if it's not required anymore. And if I have a look here, I can also see which application spaces and so on are assigned to this role. And this is directly coming from S4. So I don't have to manually set this up here. This is really something that is already set up in S4 that is exposed to workzone. So that's that part of the story. When we go back to the Content Explorer, or excuse me, the Content Manager, you can see that here we can start to play around with this content. We can also create our own content, a tile, a role, those kind of things we can create perfectly here. And if we have a look at our demo page, we can see that we can start designing with this content. So all those building blocks have to be created or imported from a system, and then you can start placing them in the right position to get your perfect design. So here you can see that I can go to edit modus and I will see my home page where I can perfectly for example, add an additional tile or a card, a UI card that I provided. So all this content is available here, and I will be able to design it, drag and drop it, and so on. And once I did this, I can start assigning my roles to a site. And when I assign a role to a site, the content that is available in that role will be provided to that site for the people that have this role. That's, of course, a very important part of the story.
Yeah.
And if we have a look at our workzone homepage here, you can see exactly the same page, but the live version, let's say, which has also some theming, which is perfectly possible with the service.
Okay.
And you will see that the tiles and the cards that we defined are available on our homepage. I can also, for example, go to postings here and open an application that is coming from my S4 system. So this is an application that is exposed from S4 to workzone, and when I press the button, it will perfectly open it, and I will be able to access that system that way. So here you see it, a beautiful Fiori application. So I think, Jules, that we can say that a central access point for all our business applications is something that we can perfectly create with workzone.
Indeed, I think for Oscar this already will be a big advantage, so he can access all his applications just from one launchpad actually. But now I was wondering, Oscar always has to log into his different systems each time he wants to use an application. Can we harmonize this authentication in a certain way with SAP Build Workzone? So Oscar only has to sign in once, and then he is authorized for all his applications. Is that something we can do as well?
I understand your question, and yes, you can perfectly harmonize your authentication and authorization for workzone and the whole ecosystem. So that's something that we can perfectly do. So let's also have a quick look on how to do this.
Okay.
So key here is the Cloud Identity Services, which is, you should see it as a central authentication service from SAP. And the key here is to connect all your relevant systems with this authentication system. And I will show a diagram in a few seconds that explains this a bit more in detail. Next to that, you can start configuring groups, for example, in SIS, in Cloud Identity Services, which you will then link to roles in Workzone and in BTP to easily grant the roles to the right people from one central platform, let's say. Okay. So how does Cloud Identity Services position in the landscape? Well, basically, you would draw it this way, where it is a service that is living in the BTP ecosystem, and that has trust with all our relevant SAP systems, on which you would like to have like a single sign-on, a central authentication way of working, and also a trust with Workzone and other applications on BTP. And that way, you will create this centralized experience. And then, of course, it's really important to create the right groups and the roles, and that's something that I'm going to show you quickly via a video. So in the Content Manager, you can create your roles, or roles can be exposed from S4. Those roles will have some specific content like applications, spaces, and so on. So that's something that you can configure in the content manager. And when you create a role, this role will also be created in BTP. So you will see it in the BTP cockpit. And there you can assign this role to users or map it to groups. And those groups are coming from the cloud identity services. So it's really important, or that's the suggestion that we would do, is to give those rights to people, those roles, via a group that is coming from cloud identity services, because that will make it much more easy to manage this setup. So that's also a very important part of that environment. And once you did this, you have like decentralized authentication, and that's also something that I want to show you, because Jules, I already showed you that we could open an application of S4. Yeah, I just opened it, and you didn't see any authentication screen. So I was already logged in, and that's because my work zone and my BTP service is linked to one central cloud identity services, and so is S4. But so is also SuccessFactors. So I have here a tile of SuccessFactors as an example, and if I open that tile, you will also see that I will be redirected to SuccessFactors. It will even open in the shell of WorkZone. So this gives you this integrated experience, one central entry point. The user doesn't even really know that it's going to SuccessFactors. But I'm currently looking into SuccessFactors and I'm already logged in. So that's really the power of cloud identity services, together with WorkZone and the whole BTP service, or the BTP ecosystem, that provides you with this harmonized authentication. So I think, Jules, that we can absolutely say that we can get a harmonized authentication with WorkZone.
Indeed, and I think this will also help Oscar Martinez a lot in his daily job. But like you know, sales directors and sales managers, they often go to customers. And as a customer, you don't always have the opportunity to take out your laptop because you don't have an internet access, or you don't have really the space for it. But you still need to perform your daily tasks like approvals, checking some reports, and so on. So it would also help Oscar if he could access his business applications on a mobile device. Is that also something we can enable using SAP Build WorkZone?
Absolutely. And the nice thing is that it comes out of the box with WorkZone. So if you take the service WorkZone, you have some licenses on that service. But together with that service, you also get SAP Mobile Start, which comes free. It's included in the package. So what you have to do to achieve this is, first of all, you have to review which applications are mobile enabled. And that's something that you can do in the Fiori apps library. So for example, if you want to have a S4 application that is exposed to Mobile Start, it's important that it's enabled for mobile access. So that's something to check. Once you did that, you know that you can expose this application. You just have to add it to your WorkZone launchpad, your environment, your site, and the end users need to install SAP Mobile Start. It's just an application that is available on Android, iOS. You just download it in the App Store of your relevant provider, and it's free. You just install it, and then by scanning the QR code that is available in the settings page of WorkZone, you can easily connect your Mobile Start with the WorkZone instance. And it's quite an easy setup. In 1 minute you can perfectly do it. It's just scanning one QR code, so everyone can do this. And once you did this, you can access your WorkZone via Mobile Start. And Mobile Start looks like this. So it's a native application. It will bring your applications, your business apps, to a native environment. And you will see that you have like a start page, an applications page, and a to-dos page. And we'll have a look at this. I made a video on my phone. So this is our real demo environment that is linked to Mobile Start. And you can see that, for example, you can already create news styles, and those news styles could be perfect for company news that you want to spread. So you can just link this style with the RSS feed, and it will make it possible to expose your news to every mobile device of your end users, for example. Next to that, you can also see your to-dos. which we will zoom into in a few moments with Task Center, of course. But you can see your to-dos that you have to approve. Also see some details from them. You can have a quick view of some details, and you can also open the more elaborated details in S4, because this is directly S4 that is opened inside of Mobile Start. And at that point, you can also approve or reject those notifications. So that's a really interesting feature. Next to that, you have favorites and app suggestions, where you can manage your own homepage. And as you can see, we also have this style that I just shown you in Workzone on the desktop version. We have this style that moves to SuccessFactors, or brings us to SuccessFactors, and brings the content of SuccessFactors into Mobile Start. The nice thing is also that you can even deep link to the native application of SuccessFactors. SuccessFactors is also a native application, which is much more elaborated, but you can link from Mobile Start to that application. So that's also a really nice feature to know that it exists. But as you can see, I can see SuccessFactors here. And then I can also go to my applications, where I will see my pages and see all the cards and tiles that are mobile enabled. So I will not see them all. I will only see those that are mobile enabled. So that's important to understand.
Mm-hmm.
For example, a tile that is linking to our Flexo website, everything is possible. And then we have our to-do section, where we can also have a look at our to-dos, which is basically the same view that we just shown on the homepage, but more in detail. So that's for Mobile Start. So it's really easy to set it up. Everyone can just use it out of the box. You just need a Workzone instance. That's the only thing that matters. So I think, Jules, that we could say that mobile access to our business applications, that we can tick the box and say that Workzone helps us with this.
Definitely. So I think, with already these three remarks, a lot of Oscar Martinez's pains are resolved. So SAP built Workzone proves to be really useful. But of course, Oscar is not the only employee in the organization. And we also have Meredith. And Meredith is a team manager, and she needs to approve a lot of different requests. For example, she needs to approve training requests, she needs to approve leave requests, expenses, and so on. And for that, also a lot of different systems are used. So Meredith has to check in S4HANA her tasks, in Concur her tasks, in SuccessFactors. And often, because of these different inboxes, a notification can be missed and someone's waiting on approval, but Meredith missed it. So I think for Meredith, it would be really useful if she could have a centralized inbox where all her tasks from different systems are centralized, and she also receives push notifications. So when a new approval request enters, Meredith gets a notification and she can check the approval. Is that also something we can resolve using SAP Build Workzone?
Absolutely, Gilles. And indeed, this is a big challenge for users that are using a lot of different systems. So this is something that we can also solve with Workzone. We can solve it with Task Center. SAP Task Center is also a service that comes with Workzone, so it's also included in the package. And this is exactly the service that is doing this for you. And I've even already gave you a sneak peek in the Mobile Start demo, but let's dive more in detail of what we can do with that. So first of all, let's start with the beginning, how to set it up, why do you need to make it work? And that's really important that we understand that. So first we need to understand the global user ID and set this up in a correct way, the SAP global user ID. Next to that, you have to activate the Task Center service and configure the destinations in the right way, and then include Task Center in your Workzone instance. But I want to zoom in the first part, the SAP Global User ID, because that's very important. If you don't set up this the right way, then your Task Center will not work correctly. So it's really important that we know how this works. And for this, I want to use this graph. So every user that is accessing multiple systems like S4, Concur, SuccessFactors, and so on, has a unique identifier in each and one of those systems. And this is typically not the same ID. my user ID in S4 is not the same as my user ID in SuccessFactors. So there is not really a way to know who I am. Maybe based on email address, maybe based on name, but you're never really sure. In a technical way, you want to be sure. You need something that is clear, and this is just not good enough for this purpose. And that's where cloud identity services can help us. The same service that I mentioned earlier, what it can do for us, it can generate a global user ID for each user. And when it generated this, it can also move this ID to each and one of those systems, a bit like this. So the result will be that you have a global user ID that will be pushed to each of those systems, and in those systems you will now have two IDs. Your user ID internally in that system, but also the global user ID that is a generic ID over the whole SAP ecosystem, the whole SAP landscape. And this makes that at the top you can just say this global user ID is this person, and you're sure that it will always be the right person that will be assigned or retrieved. And it's really important to know this and to set this up right, because our central inbox needs this, our SAP Task Center needs this, because when we want to send a message to Task Center, we will do this with a global user ID. It doesn't matter from which system this task is coming, it just needs a global user ID, and then Task Center will understand who you are and who needs to approve this. So that's really an important part. We can help people with setting this up, but it's a really important part to set this up in the correct way to make this work seamlessly. The next step would be to activate the Task Center service in BTP and configure some destinations. Activating the service is something that you should do with the documentation, of course. Maybe via a booster, that's also possible, or manual, depending on your situation. And then also configuring the destinations. No one knows this by heart, of course. You have to follow the documentation and do it in the right way. But the essence is that you need a destination pointing to your system that will provide you with notifications. So in our example, it's our S4 system. So we have to set up this destination and also provide it with some properties so that Task Center understands how it has to talk with this. For example, there's a Task Center enable property that will tell Task Center that this destination should be used as a provider for notifications. So that's an important part, something that you have to do, of course, with documentation or with some help. And you set it up once for each system, and then Task Center can start communicating with those systems. And then, of course, you have to include Task Center into your work zone, and that's basically what I've shown earlier in the presentation. You can just go to the site editor, edit the page, and Task Center, once you activated it, it will just be there in the form of a tile, an application, but also UI cards that you can add to your work zone site and make available to specific users or all users based on roles and this kind of configuration. And I have a quick demo of Task Center. So I first want to show you this video where earlier I created a purchase order in S4. So this is the launchpad of our S4 system. It's not in WorkZone, but you could also do this in WorkZone, perfectly possible. And I created a purchase order, and audit-wise it's not the cleanest way, but I'm my own approver for this demo, that's enough. So I created it, and this will result into a task for an approval of this order, and you will see that in my inbox it will be available. Just to be clear, Task Center is not always replacing my inbox. You can still use my inbox next to Task Center. So for example, someone that is accessing still the S4 Launchpad can also see their tasks, just like I've shown you here, in my inbox. But it will also be exposed to Task Center if you set it up correctly. And for the next part, I want to zoom in on the part where you asked about push notifications on your mobile device. So I created this order, which needs an approval from my side, and the result will be that on my phone I will get a push notification from Mobile Start, because I have mobile start and task center, everything is set up, I will get a push notification that tells me that I have to approve this order. And I can see the details, of course, go to the details screen with additional details if that's required, and I can approve or reject this task directly from my mobile start. So that's in the topic of push notifications. That's perfectly possible. And next to that, I really want to show you very quickly the same view in WorkZone. So I've shown you my inbox in the video, which is still perfectly accessible. I've shown you the tasks from Task Center coming into Mobile Start with push notifications and so on. But I can also have a look in WorkZone and see my notifications here. And as I mentioned, there were some UI cards that you can show in your WorkZone site, which are basically those. And this will show you your latest approvals that you have to do, your latest tasks that you have to do, where you can do a quick approve or a quick reject, or go to the details of that approval, or purchase order or tasks. And I could also go directly to the Task Center application, where I will have a similar view as the My Inbox, but for different systems. And in our demo, we only set up S4. But the idea is that if you connect this with S4, SuccessFactors, Concur, and other systems, you will see all those sources popping up here as a tab, and all your tasks will be available on one central place. And also here, I can go to the details screen, where the page of the purchase order will be loaded, where I can see some views, some details of the purchase order, and of course do a approve or reject directly from this view. And the nice thing is that it all syncs with each other. So my inbox knows when a task is closed in Task Center and vice versa. So that's of course something very important.
Indeed.
So I think, Jules, indeed, that we can say that a centralized inbox and push notifications are perfectly possible with WorkZone and the services around it.
Okay, Thomas. Yeah, indeed, it seems really useful. So we've talked about the central access point, where I can access all my business application in one place. We have harmonized authentication. I only need to log in once and then be authorized for my different systems. And I also have mobile access to my business applications and have a centralized inbox. So I would say SAP Build WorkZone is really the solution for all these challenges we have in an organization. But of course, SAP Build WorkZone is not always the only solution. In certain cases, business users that work for one role in one system or are desktop focused and only work on their desktop computer, have one source of tasks and notifications. And for those users, the built-in launchpad of your system is really still the perfect solution for their daily tasks. On the other hand, you have users that need access to multiple systems in a dynamic landscape. They need mobile and flexible access, just as Oscar. But sometimes also external users need access to your business application. For example, if you have a customer portal, often external users need to access this to provide data. So in those cases, SAP Build WorkZone can also be a solution. And of course, if you have multiple sources of tasks and notifications, and so SAP Build WorkZone is the solution for you. So what we're trying to tell here is that both can exist in one organization. It's not or a Launchpad or SAP Build WorkZone. It's really case by case. You have to look, okay, what's the best solution for that specific user for that role? And that brings us back to the flavors. So in this Dev2Dev, we've talked about SAP Start and SAP Build WorkZone Standard Edition. But of course, we still have SAP Build WorkZone Advanced Edition. And if you want to know more about the Advanced Edition, we also have a Dev2Dev series for that, where Maarten and Dieter explained in great detail all the different features of the Advanced Edition. So definitely check that video out on our YouTube channel.
Thank you, Jill. That's indeed a really interesting video. And if you want to learn even more about technical things in the SAP world, about BTP, about AI, all those kind of topics, we would also like to invite you to the Flexo Tech Days that are taking place on the 3rd of November in Mechelen at Technopolis. And
I think 13th.
13th, yeah. Sorry, I thought I said 13th. The 13th of November in Mechelen, and where we will give a lot of different sessions about data analytics, extensibility, automation, and integration. So this will be a wonderful afternoon where you can enjoy a lot of interesting content in the SAP world. We would like to thank you for taking your time and listening to our session. And of course, we also have some room here for questions.
So yeah, I see here the first question. And the question is, if I just have an S4 system with some extensions, do I need to use WorkZone?
That's a good question. And the answer is not always. So you could perfectly provide some of your extensions on S4 directly. So that's a possibility. Maybe you don't always need a whole shell for everything around your application, and you just want to provide a simple application somewhere. So it's again case by case, and I understand that if you have one or two extensions that it might see like a big challenge to implement WorkZone just for that. So what I would suggest is think about a strategy, think about which applications do you have or are you going to build in the future, and talk to us, because we can help you decide, because it's very difficult to just say yes or no. You have to think about a strategy that is the right one for your company.
See if there is any other questions.
If I already have a structure on premise with spaces and pages for S4, for example, can I just replicate that in WorkZone, or do you need to come up with a new structure? Well, you can just expose your content from S4 and just keep the roles like they are in S4. Indeed. And then they will just provide you with the spaces and the pages that you have in S4. So you can just like copy paste them or just include them in your work.
Yeah, and that with minimal effort.
Indeed, with the channel managers that we've shown. You could also choose to split the applications up and create a new, let's say, role and spaces and structure in WorkZone, because maybe you want to have another design in your WorkZone than on your S4 launch, but that's also possible. Then again, you have to think up front, what do you want to achieve? Do you just want to expose a few apps for mobile access, or do you want to go full blown and really provide like a single entry point for all your business users?
Yeah. So again, here it's really case by case that you have to look at it.
Does it make sense to have end users have some tiles accessed from WorkZone and others from the local S4 launch path? Good question. Yes, I think that would perfectly make sense. You could, for example, use your WorkZone for everything, depending if your S4 is a public cloud or not. But imagine that you have a S4 landscape that is behind a firewall or a private network, let's say. You could choose to expose, for example, 3 applications to WorkZone and make them publicly accessible from everywhere. And then the user will use those apps on the road, the typical apps that they will need on the road, and the other apps that they will only use for desktop tasks, let's say, or desk tasks. You could choose that he or she accesses those apps via the S4 launchpad. You could also, for example, just use WorkZone as a proxy, let's say, for mobile access. So there are different ways of looking at it. So it could perfectly make sense, absolutely. And maybe just in addition to that one, For external users, it might also be very interesting. So Workzone could also give you the possibility to make, for example, a portal for your customers or external people, business partners that are connecting with your system but doesn't need like full-blown users. So for that you could also use Workzone, for example.
Indeed. Okay, how can you make sure a tile is mobile enabled? Is it a setting? Can you do it yourself? Yeah, for example, as for applications, SAP themselves will always indicate if the application is mobile enabled or not, and that you can check in the Fiori apps library. So there is I think it just says mobile enabled. Of course, if you create custom applications, then you are yourself responsible for making it mobile enabled or not. So yeah, it's actually pretty easy to check it. Yeah. So okay.
All right. We don't have any other questions anymore. So thank you very much for joining us with this session. And I hope to see you at the Flexitech Day in November.
Thanks a lot. See you then.